Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. Chapter 1. This takes place the day before Garo gets into the fight with Tank Top Master and the others. It will stray from canon a bit, but only to add some different tastes to this, so nothing major, just a little sprinkle on top of the cake is all. What are we doing again? Asked Tatsumaki. Saitama was enjoying a nice morning walk until somehow he bumped into Genos and Tatsumaki, and Genos talked too highly of him for the woman's liking. You're here to see why I think Sensei is better than you, said Genos, using his enhanced vision to scout out the area. It's a clear field. Good. How do you want to prove you're better then? Genos asked Tatsumaki to give her a handicap. Easy. He has to touch me. I'll float high in the air, and all this C-class hero has to do is touch me. Not too hard, right? Asked the girl, much too full of herself for Saitama's liking. Don't be so confident you'll always win, there's someone stronger than all of us out there, said Saitama. Tatsumaki ignored him. If I win, he gets demoted back to the last rank in Class C. If he, somehow wins, I'll, take him on a date. Shouted licenses-less rider from his position next to Genos, who had let him get near them. What? Shouted the woman. You said you won't lose, said Genos, keeping a straight face, but on the inside he was laughing. If Saitama and her get together, he could be seen for his real deeds, and get someone other than guys at his house. True. Let's get this started, said Tatsumaki, flying nearly 40 feet up in the air. Saitama looked up at her, his usual neutral expression on as he looked at her. That's easy, he said before he hopped, getting up almost 20 feet before he felt something push him right back down to the ground. I'm not going to make it that easy. I'll keep focusing on keeping your feet on the ground, said Tatsumaki, but in reality she was scared. He got way too close way too fast. I see, I can't get to you, then I'll take the ground up there, said Saitama as though it was the simplest thing ever. He lifted his foot easily against Tatsumaki's mind control and slammed it down, cracking up the earth and causing a large, straight piece of earth that flipped towards Saitama. As soon as it was nearly at 90 degrees with the earth, Saitama ran up it faster than he'd move in a while, making sure he would reach her, and reach her he did. The hoodie-wearing hero went too fast. He caught her bridal style and kept going, getting up nearly 100 feet above the ground, but that didn't seem to bother him one bit. I win and you owe me, said the man with a grin, causing her face to heat up. Whatever, Baldy, said the woman, crossing her arms and huffing, forgetting they were falling faster and faster. Hold on tight, said Saitama before he impacted the ground, kicking up a cloud of dirt. Genos quickly blew the dust away and saw Saitama standing perfectly still as Tatsumaki clung to him like a lifeline. Don't do that so suddenly, shouted Tatsumaki, hitting his chest, which only made her hand hurt. So Sensei wins like I said he would. You two need to get cleaned up though, said Genos, motioning to all the dust that covered the two. Fine, let's get going. I'm hungry for some udon, said the bald hero, grabbing a still flustered Tatsumaki from the ground by her waist and taking off towards his apartment. This is all that fits, said Tatsumaki, referring to the small white hoodie, blue skirt and black knee-high socks. Apparently he had an old female friend who stayed one afternoon and left a change of clothes. It just coincidentally fit her. Before she could react, Saitama picked her up and placed her in front of Genos and Ryder. Look at her. She's so adorable, said Saitama, and Tatsumaki lit up like a Christmas tree. Ryder covered his mouth to hide his laugh, and Genos kept a stoic face. You should tell her more about how you feel, said Genos, and secretly fist bumped Ryder behind their backs. Saitama hugged her and lifted her up. She's just too adorable for words, it's awesome. I love it. By now Tatsumaki was nearly at the point of fainting with how embarrassed she was until she heard the door open. Tatsumaki felt Saitama stop and move slightly, which allowed her to see King standing in the door. I didn't know you two had gotten together, said King like it was expected. Tatsumaki raised a shaky hand, intent on blasting him away with a pulse of her power, but Saitama spun her and hugged her chest to his. King, have you seen her like this? She's so fucking adorable. Why has no one told me this before? Shouted Saitama, King noticing Genos and Ryder trying not to bust out laughing. I have now, but why is she here? She's usually doing some crazy mission, said King, setting his game system down and setting it up. She lost a bet and has to go on a date with Sensei. So get going, said the cyborg, pushing the two out the door. He usually would wait until Sensei was ready, but he had already cleaned up and had a decent pair of pants and a black hoodie. Saitama heard the door close and then set Tatsumaki down. I need my wallet, said the hero, then he felt his wallet hit his shoe. Thanks Genos, said Saitama and turned to Tatsumaki. Ready? Asked the bald man and only got a mumble. What? I said yes. Let's just get this over with, shouted Tatsumaki. Okay, geez. Does udon sound good? Whatever. I have a strange feeling someone's watching us, said Saitama, eating a bowl of udon noodles. You are strange anyway, so that's fine, said Tatsumaki, calmly eating her food. She had bought a small bag of ponytails and put her hair up, seeing as she didn't have time to clean it up before they left. Suddenly her date was face to face with her. You're strange too, but in a cute way, said Saitama. Neither moved. Saitama just stayed frozen as he watched the Esper's face grow redder and redder. You're blushing, what's wrong? Are you sick? Said Saitama, thinking she was running a fever. And no, said Tatsumaki, returning to eating her food but at a much faster pace. If you say so, responded Saitama, letting his gaze linger on her for a moment before he too returned to his food. The two ate the rest of the meal in relative silence before paying the bill and walking around to the different vendors in the area. Oh, want a ring? Asked Saitama. Why'd I want a ring? Said Tatsumaki, glancing at the jewelry stand, her eyes briefly lingering on a gold chain with a small ruby heart gem. A new shirt, said the hero. No. Pants. No. Candy. And wait, what kind? Said Tatsumaki, her sweet tooth showing. Cotton candy, said Saitama, already buying a stick of cherry before she could say anything. I really hope no S-class show up seeing this, said Tatsumaki, trying to keep her blush down as she took a bite of the cotton candy before he followed suit. The two were now seated at a park bench near the ocean, watching the star-lit sky. Why, I'd never hear the end of it from them. About you and me, alone, at night, eating candy and all, said Tatsumaki, her cheeks heating up again just mentioning it. So what? Said Saitama, and Tatsumaki turned to him in surprise. Who the hell cares what everyone else thinks? Do what pleases you, everyone else can go jump off a cliff or something. It was then Tatsumaki realized something she hadn't all night. She was enjoying herself for the first time in a long time. She let her fear of how others pictured her ruin the night she could have enjoyed even more, a night that may never happen again. Tonight was nice, let's do it again sometime, said Saitama, turning to her and smiling. For the first time that night she smiled back, that's be great. Chapter 2. No, said Saitama, looking down on a pouting Tatsumaki. Why not? She responded with a shout. 'Cause I said so, let's go. Tatsumaki stomped her foot down, causing the ground to shake violently as her figure began to glow green and she started to float. I said I want to go there, shouted the Esper, trying to intimidate him. However, for a brief second, she forgot he had beaten her, but she remembered soon after. Saitama turned his head, looking much more serious than usual, nearly looking pissed off. Tatsumaki tried to hold her ground, but as he approached her she set her feet back on the ground and her power faded. He looked thoroughly pissed off as he now stood just a few inches from her. Tatsumaki closed her eyes, expecting a verbal tell-off. She knew she was acting childish, but she really wanted to go, but he will. We'd better hurry if we want to make it, the place closes at 10, said Saitama. Tatsumaki's head shot up, he was smiling at her with a sincere face. Why you mean it? Of course, it's not a bad place to go and you seem to want to go pretty bad. He did look slightly out of place for where she wanted to go, but she didn't care, she was an S-class hero so no one would say anything. Wait, if it's open till 10 and it's nearly 9:40, how would they make it across an entire city? I guess I'll take over this time, hang on, said Saitama. Tatsumaki had only fought him 2 times, each time she was easily defeated, but the speed he was moving at now showed how much she didn't know about him, how much he outclassed her. An entire city was covered in only a few minutes. That was impossible for anyone she knew of, even Blast. We made it just in time, said Saitama, setting her down and following her inside a small building. Welcome to Sake and Sweets. How may I help you? Asked a clerk. The shop was small, just nearly double the size of Saitama's apartment, which wasn't big to begin with. However, its size meant nothing to the quality of the food they offered. The array of sweets and alcohol was astounding, but what few knew was this was a small branch off a large restaurant. It was meant to appeal to mainly sweets and a slight bit of alcohol. Can I have a slice of strawberry cake and cheesecake? Asked Tatsumaki. We'll have it at your table shortly, for you, sir. A slice of cheesecake is fine, said Saitama. Yes, sir. We will have those out shortly, said the clerk before he walked off, and the two heroes took a seat on a large booth. Pretty empty since it's going to close soon, said Saitama, looking around and looking back to Tatsumaki, who seemed off. She was much too quiet. The woman was very outspoken and didn't hold back on nearly anything. What's wrong, Tatsumaki? Are you feeling well? Asked Saitama, leaning closer to her. Tatsumaki crossed her arms and turned her head, a dust of pink now showing on her cheeks. Are you going to answer me? No reply. Saitama sighed. Maybe she was just mad he carried her all the way. She was stubborn like that. She liked to do stuff on her own, from what he learned recently. He sat back down as the food arrived, letting the subject drop as they ate in silence. Once both had finished, Saitama paid for the food and walked outside, waiting for Tatsumaki to return from the restroom. He heard the door shut behind him and turned to see Tatsumaki. This time she looked as if she'd been crying. Saitama immediately knelt down to her level and placed his hands on her shoulders. What's wrong? Did someone call you something? He knew, thanks to Genos and Bang, that some people didn't like espers and a few were bold enough to call her names. There was a reason she rarely left HQ. She was affected by it but usually retaliated in some way. And no one said anything. Tatsumaki dropped her head and hid it from Saitama. Hey, what is it? What Saitama didn't expect was her to pick her head up, tears streaming down her face, and now with a frown. No one's been this nice to me, ever. My sister was too jealous. Anyone I work with is scared of me or doesn't care to do anything. You're just so nice. I wonder why. Why are you so nice to me? Before, all I wanted to do was win against you. All I did was insult you. The first time I saw you, I just insulted you. Why? Only after one date, after one day, are you so nice to me? This was a first for Saitama. He'd never seen this side of her, or really anyone for that matter. It's just what I do. All your insults are harmless and usually just a physical trait. I wouldn't consider an insult. That date part, I guess, for me it was a first too. Before I trained, I was an unemployed, depressed guy that had no reason to live. You're the first person I've ever taken on a date, the first woman who's even agreed hang out with me willingly. This is totally new to me, and in all honesty, I enjoy it too much to end it, so I never asked you to leave. I didn't want to, said Saitama with a serious face. Tatsumaki was at a loss for words. She'd never heard of his life before becoming a hero, nor had she known she was the first person he's gone on a date with. Tatsumaki, you're looking down on yourself now. The Esper's eyes widened. His words were the truth. You see yourself as a spider, small, but in your world of spiders you reign supreme. However, that solitude power of yours keeps you isolated and you don't see things as others do. Hold on to me, said Saitama, hugging her and waiting until she held on. Slowly she wrapped her arms around his neck and he tensed his leg muscles before shooting off to the top of a large building nearby. From what I've seen, you should be a star. Powerful, bright, a light of hope for those under your gaze. Not all will worship you, but those who do will never waver in their appreciation and admiration of you. I may be a distant star, not out of reach, but still there for you. Things may change, but recently I've been thinking. We are different, but you know what? Different isn't always so bad, said Saitama, setting her down as he spoke. Tatsumaki listened to him as he spoke but looked at his face as he did. His eyes were focused on the night sky, looking off into space as if he could picture exactly what he was saying. Maybe, Maybe she wanted to picture that too, to be part of what he was saying. Saitama looked down when Tatsumaki moved to stand in front of him. I understand a little more now. It's just, a thought ran through my head at the shop. Maybe, you only went out with me on the date because I lost, maybe you just tolerate me and let me follow you around after the date. After what you just said, I'm happy I was wrong. Like I said, no one's been that nice to me before and I've never been this nice to someone before. I've kept my rough side out, it kept me safe, kept me from getting hurt in any way my powers couldn't protect me. I guess, I'm just happy it was someone like you I opened up to. Haha, I doubt I'd open up to anyone else if it wasn't someone like you. Now what? Said Saitama in his usual bluntness and nearly ignoring the gushing feelings they had seconds ago. Tatsumaki froze. I don't. I've never done this either. She was about to freak out until she felt Saitama hug her again. I guess we'll start here and see how things go. Tatsumaki stood there then hugged him back. I guess so. I need to go grab something. I'll be back at your apartment later tonight to play games. Alright, I'll put some udon on the stove, said Saitama and turned to walk off but stopped when he felt Tatsumaki flare her power. He turned around and saw her floating, a green hue surrounding her once more. This means you can't go hitting on women now just cause you got me to agree to this. Saitama sighed, that was her alright. Bipolar suited her, but I guess it wasn't all bad. I know, you think I would. Tatsumaki huffed and turned around, embarrassed, with men you never know. With that she flew off, he assumed to grab clothes but he wasn't sure what she was doing. All he knew was he had to grab something for tomorrow. Within a few minutes of running he arrived just near a place he knew sold the wig he needed. As he walked he spaced out, letting his thoughts wander before someone in front of him turned then tried to knock him out with a hand chop to the neck. What's the big idea? Are you trying to mug me? Said Saitama before he delivered his own neck chop, easily knocking his attacker out before grabbing a wig from the stand just a few feet away. It took a few minutes but he got the wig he needed before returning to his apartment and seeing Geno's outside. Are you leaving? Asked Saitama and the cyborg shook his head. No, I just arrived back from the doctor's. King is watching the apartment, said Geno's. The two walked upstairs and opened the door to see a decent-sized bag next to King who was playing a game. Hey King, plan on staying the night? Asked Saitama. Huh, oh, no, that's not mine, answered King, returning to his game. Then whose? Baldy, you need to clean the bathroom, said Tatsumaki, exiting the bathroom with a plain white t-shirt and blue pajama pants, her hair back up in a ponytail. I cleaned it 2 days ago. How is it dirty? Retorted Geno's. Oh, I accidentally slipped and toothpaste went everywhere. My bad, said Tatsumaki but as soon as she said that Geno's rushed inside and shut the door. He'll take care of it, he's really good about keeping things clean. Now, why is your bag here and why are you dressed like you're ready to sleep here? Tatsumaki floated up to his eye level. I wanted to stay over, I barely know you so this is the best way to know you. Spending the night at someone's house you've gone on 2 dates with isn't the best way to do that, said King, still engrossed in his game. Keep it shut, idiot, retorted Tatsumaki. He's right, it is a little odd, said Saitama. Tatsumaki floated back down and looked to the side. So, do I need to leave? We can do something tomorrow. I just said it's odd, I don't care as long as you don't use as much electricity as King does, said Saitama, surprising both King and Tatsumaki he didn't care. Geno's heard it but he wasn't surprised, he just assumed his sensei didn't care about too much anyway since she caused much trouble. Really? I can stay. Sure. Don't make a mess and try not to destroy the place, said Saitama, walking past her and starting a pot of boiling water. Lucky, I have to walk back home, said King. Do you want udon too? Asked Saitama. Please, responded King. I want some fruit, said Tatsumaki, trying to rummage through his fridge but she was held off by Saitama's leg. No, I'll get it ready when I make the plate. Go sit down and wait, said the bald hero. Tatsumaki considered using her powers but left it alone and sat at the table near King. You suck at this. I have the second highest score in the world. You're not at the top so you suck. Neither are you. His control snapped in half and King began to sweat, knowing that comment may have taken things too far. Food's done, shouted Saitama, setting the table for 4 people. King let out a quiet sigh. Once more Saitama helped him out. Genos appeared moments after the food was set, smelling like chemicals and toothpaste as he sat down. Saitama sat down last, Genos to his left, King to his right and Tatsumaki across from him. All I had was a banana and an apple, said Saitama. That's fine, said Tatsumaki, trying to act like somewhat nice. The 3 ate in relative silence, until King finished and left. Bye now, loser, said Tatsumaki as he left and King was smart enough to keep quiet. First was the controller, he didn't want to lose a limb to the bipolar Esper. Master, I am going to rest. I have a meeting for some reason tomorrow. Good night, said Genos, pick up his plate and King's before going to his own room. You can sleep on my bed, I'll take up a blanket on the floor, said Saitama before he noticed Tatsumaki's face light up bright red. What is it? Why you could just share the bed with me, shouted Tatsumaki. Saitama was at a loss for words, he was sure Genos heard that and chose to either ignore it or leave it alone. That's something people that date do, I think, said the bald man. Are we not? That hit Saitama like a ton of bricks, he never thought too deeply into that. If you want to. Tatsumaki mumbled something and he leaned forward to try and hear her. Yes, shouted the woman as she looked up, now her face inches from his own. Both froze, their faces heated up and the shot backwards. I need to go clean the dishes, said Saitama, picking up his plate and her own before rushing off to the sink. I need to go to sleep, said Tatsumaki, realizing she had nothing to do but sleep at the moment, so she waited. She sat at the table as Saitama cleaned the kitchen, got ready for bed and made sure everything was in order before returning to the living room. Let's go to bed, said the hero with an awkward smile. Yes, responded Tatsumaki to the ground, following him to his room. He opened the door and let her in before closing it and seeing her stare at the bed. You've gotta lay down on it, said Saitama. I know that, Baldy, said Tatsumaki in her usual brash tone. The B-class hero sighed before lying down and patted the mat next to him. Hurry up, I'm not waiting all night. Tatsumaki fidgeted before giving in and lying down next to him, her back to his chest. Night, said Saitama. Night, said Tatsumaki, trying to sleep in the odd position she was in. She was on the wrong side, but she didn't want to face him. How long could she go without sleep? Forget it, she was going to turn around and go to sleep, just not touch him when she did. However, once she turned around, Saitama seemed to get comfortable when she moved to her new position. He wrapped an arm around her and pulling her flush against him, her chin resting on his shoulder. Baldy, get up, said the green-haired woman but only got a light snore in response. The Esper sighed, there was no point in bother him now, she was actually comfortable sleeping like this. The blanket was already warm but she felt even better in his arms, she felt safer than ever. Maybe, losing that bet was a good thing after all. Chapter 3. You've gotta be kidding me, said Tatsumaki, looking at Bang, Genos and prisoner in the meeting room. I apologize for the short notice on this meeting but you are the closet to the epidemic. The monster Garo has been moving around within the region, he has already taken down Tank Top Master and his disciples. We fear he may turn on each and every hero and possibly the population soon, said an executive from the Hero Association. He won't, he's just looking for a challenge. Someone who can best him and give him a thrill, said Bang with a sigh. Is this a mission or just a heads up? Asked prisoner. Both in a sense, look out for him but we don't need a hunting party of S-class. Bang has already decided to go after him, we are informing you of his actions and asking for you to detain him if he is spotted, said the woman next to him. If he knows the moves that Bang knows, who's good enough to stop him besides high S-class members? Asked Genos. He knew of his strength and it was far under Bang or even Metal Knight for that matter. He did know Sensei could easily handle him but no one else besides Tatsumaki and Bang knew of this. Tank Top Master came close to beating him, so even if two low S rank members attacked, the chance of winning would be near the same, if not more. That is all, forgive the sudden call, said the man before both he and the woman walked out. I wonder, said Bang, letting his thoughts wander as prisoner left, leaving him Tatsumaki and Genos outside the building. What is it? Asked Genos. I was wonder what would happen if Garo and Saitama were to meet, said Bang. Half a city would be leveled, said Genos. Garo wouldn't be getting up again, said Tatsumaki. What if Garo purposely attacked him? Going for his eyes, would Saitama be fast enough? Thought Bang out loud. Sensei can keep up with Tornado easily, I doubt that man could hold a candle to her, said Genos. What if he already has? He's supposed to be in the city Saitama is in, said Bang. Oh no, was all Genos said before he took off. Tatsumaki sighed, I guess I'll follow him. Don't do what I know you'll do to Garo, Bang. With her parting words she took off like a rocket, within seconds, already farther than Genos in finding Saitama. Ah, what it would be like to be young again, said Bang, starting his walk towards the city. With Saitama. Hey King, where did those two go? Asked Saitama, making some kind of cake if King had to guess. Some S-class meeting, wasn't important, said King, watching him mix stuff up. Oh, okay, just curious, said the bald hero. What is the reason for this? I want some sweets and Genos promised 1-2 days ago. I'm making it myself now. Ah, do I get some? Saitama tossed the cake in the oven and shrugged, sure, why not? As he set the timer, the two suddenly heard a bunch of screaming outside. Watch that for me, was all King heard as Saitama, suddenly all suited up, jumped off the ledge of his apartment. Yeah, okay. Saitama looked around the rubble, helping people up as he did. He couldn't see anything left, just a few broken stands and a handful of injured civilians. Sir, said one woman being helped up by a few others. What is it? Asked Saitama, lifting up a man and handing him to a group of onlookers. That thing, was incredibly fast, I've never seen anyone move that quick, it went for the fruit, and just vanished, said a woman being helped up. Thank you, I'll look for it, said the hero before he noticed a shadow cover his body. The group of people in front of him looked nearly ready to pass out. Found. You, was all Saitama heard before a massive fist slammed into him. The onlookers felt nothing but fear when the only hero nearby was hit, however, just as the fist was near impact it stopped. Saitama had brought his arm up, halting the large beast long enough for the hero to get a good look at him. It reminded him of a bull, only on 2 legs and beefier, more muscles and all. Oh, he almost forgot, it could talk to. What made you? Was all he asked, not showing any care about being attacked. I was mutated when my handlers decided to dump toxic waste on me, the results they wanted were not as expected. I fight who I want, when I want, not when someone tells me to, said the bull. Hurting people who have no say in your life is not the way to go, advocating is, said Saitama. I see your view but I do not care, just as those who watched my torture for their enjoyment. I will do as I please, said the bull before he appeared on the other side of Saitama. I'll start by ending you, the bull finished off and swung, but the results were less than favorable for his side. As his fist moved, Saitama punched back, obliterating the bull's arm and upper half. No one spoke as the lower half of the bull fell to the ground, blood splattered across the building in front of the bald hero. He did it, yeah. Thanks man, shouted one guy, holding a rag on his gashed forehead. Those around him started to clap and cheer, some walking up to him and thanking him. All while it happened, Saitama just took it in, it was the first time he'd been thanked by this many people for anything. The people cheering began to quiet down. The woman from before hobbled over to him with another woman next to her in case she fell. Thank you sir. You saved my child, said the woman, rubbing her stomach. It's no problem, you guys didn't need me anyway, said Saitama, confusing the crowd. Why is that? No one here could stop him, said the other woman. Come on down now, you two. Suddenly Genos landed next to Saitama and Tatsumaki descended on his other side. They got here a few seconds after me, Either one of these two could have taken care of it, said Saitama. You still saved us, sir, said the woman. I guess so, and just call me Saitama. Sir isn't my name. Oh, you're caped baldy. A new B class, said one man. A low B class. You need a promotion, dude, shouted another. Yeah, A class. A class. Calm down, everyone. I didn't do much. He wasn't strong, just fast was all. Any high B class could take him, said Saitama, which did little to quell the crowd. Then something clicked in Saitama. He had forgotten something this entire time. My cake, shouted the hero before he took off, kicking up a fierce wind from the speed he moved. Cake? Asked Tatsumaki, watching him run off. The cake, the one I forgot to make, said Genos. Good job, Sparky, said the Esper before she took off after Saitama. Genos shook his head and called the association to send some medics before leaving the scene to the newly arrived rider. With King, everything was perfect, nothing was out of place, no wrong turns, no odd angels, nothing. That was until Saitama appeared next to him from the open glass door, shouting about his cake. Take it easy, I pulled it out and used the icing you left. It's in the covered holder on the table, wait till everyone else gets here before we eat, said King. Saitama agreed with his idea, wanting to let everyone see his cake together, so he changed into a pair of khaki shorts and a black shirt. Within a minute Tatsumaki had arrived at the door, allowing Genos to unlock it and let her in. What she didn't expect was Saitama and King to be sitting at the table with some pedestal-like object in the center and set plates. Sit, said Saitama, it sounded nothing like an option. What's with this, Baldy? Asked Tatsumaki. She wasn't going to be too rude inside his own home, however, she wasn't going to stop acting as she always did, even if she did like him. I made this so we'll all enjoy it, said Saitama, staring at everyone, Genos a bit longer than the rest. Everyone, besides King, was now interested. Genos had never seen him cook a cake, and Tatsumaki wondered if he could even cook something that required a delicate hand. Slowly, he removed the top of the cake holder, and what he saw was not what he expected, or anyone besides King, for that matter. The cake had a full coating of white icing, but in green icing was writing, to Tatsumaki with love, Saitama. The cake, along with the pedestal it sat on, sailed across the horizon thanks to the wonderful throw by Saitama. King watched in amusement as both Saitama and Tatsumaki's face lit up like Christmas trees. The Esper refused to look anywhere but at her hands folded in her lap, and Saitama simply watched the cake fly. Very nice throw, said Genos, knowing what King was up to but choosing to ignore it. He didn't want the Esper or Sensei doing anything irrational in the apartment. That was a nice cake, said Tatsumaki, surprising all the occupants. She actually said it, thought King. I didn't think she'd say it, at least not with Sensei here, thought Genos. Thanks, but it wasn't cooked right. I didn't want to get you all sick. Let's go pick one already made, sound good? Asked Saitama, standing. Whatever, said Tatsumaki, standing. Okay, said Genos. Sure, why not, said King, shrugging. Bang looked off in the distance, noticing a small black speck in his view. Chirenko, do you see that? Asked the aged man. His disciple stood in near him and moved forward to get a closer view. That black speck? Asked the young man. Yes, can you tell what it is? I think it's a cake, was all he got out before said cake impacted his face and threw him to the ground. In some miracle, the cake impacted just right to leave only one green icing word for Bang to see, to Tatsumaki. Only one person nearby could throw a cake that far. Suddenly a pedestal hit the unconscious Chirenko, and keep that sailing with it. I wonder, could that young man really be trying to get with her? Thought Bang. Chapter 4. Tatsumaki floated next to Saitama happily. For the first time in her life she had washed and ironed someone else's clothes and loved the result. How is it? Asked the green-haired Esper. Saitama flexed the cloth a bit as he walked, moving his arms around and taking different steps. It feels nice. My cleaner never gets it this soft, said the bald hero, and the Esper smiled triumphantly. Thank you, I tried my best. I can tell, it's awesome. said Saitama just before a soda can impacted his head, exploding on nearly all of his freshly cleaned clothes. Ha ha ha. I totally got you, laughed a soda machine that had somehow sprouted legs and arms. The hell is that? Shouted a random civilian. I am the soda machine from hell. I was created by a large power surge in my outlet, and from then on I vowed to do whatever I want that makes me happy. Getting soda to explode on someone makes me pretty happy, alright, said the machine before he noticed his feet were no longer on the ground. You ruined my masterpiece, shouted Tatsumaki before the soda machine went flying across the horizon at speeds only Saitama could follow if he had actually looked up instead of staying unmoving, staring at the ground. Just as the soda machine went flying, Tatsumaki noticed the ground was shaking quite a bit and turned her head to see a tree now standing 20 feet tall with root-like legs. That stupid machine left, now nature will take her course on you humans, shouted the sentient tree, wrapping a root around Saitama before pulling as hard as it could. All that it accomplished was ripping off said limb halfway and leaving the other half squirming around, squirting sap everywhere it moved. In another bad turn of luck, the sap sprayed all over the still unmoving Saitama, and Tatsumaki's look turned darker than a moonless night. Stop making things worse, stupid nature, Tatsumaki shouted once more, holding her hand out as the tree glowed green. In a show of her mastery over her powers, the tree began to shrink, collapsing on itself before all that was left was a small ball just barely an inch in diameter. Not so tough now, said Tatsumaki, glaring at the lifeless ball and ignoring the mass of trash forming from a dumpster truck behind her. To think, chemicals mixed in such a place would bring me life, said the trash muck as it slithered out and noticed Tatsumaki with her back turned. You, child, will be my first victim, said the muck as it moved towards her, only to be blown to nothingness by a single punch from Saitama. Fighting dirty is no way to fight, was all he said as the trash being exploded all over him, covering his suit fully in the filth that was stored in the muck. Tatsumaki instantly heard the explosion and turned, just in time to see the trash muck explode and cover Saitama. No 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 no. We're cleaning that and you're walking home in different clothes. Saitama couldn't, or wouldn't, say anything as she dragged him down the sidewalk and back to her apartment. The bald hero once more stood in a pair of plain white shorts and a black t-shirt as Tatsumaki used her powers to clean the suit again. No need to worry so much, it's just cloth. I can go buy more if you want me to, said Saitama. Tatsumaki sighed. It's not that, it's the fact I tried to do something nice for you after all you've done and it just turns terrible. In a show of impressive speed she felt him embrace her from behind, holding her close, the two sharing one another's warmth. You're doing fine as it is, there's no need to ever have to pay me back. Being around is payment enough, said Saitama, and Tatsumaki's face flushed. She was glad he hugged her from behind. If you say so, said Tatsumaki. I do. Now when you're done we can. His sentence was cut short when Tatsumaki's phone went off. The Esper picked it up and answered, What? Miss Tatsumaki, we have a situation. It seems a large lava demon has been spotted appear out of a volcano just off of the former Hawaiian Islands. Can you take care of it? Sure. But how am I going to get there? A private jet has already landed on top of the apartment. There are a few extra spaces if you are attending to guests, heroes only of course. We'll be up in a minute. Thank you once again, Miss Tatsumaki. What happened? Asked Saitama. Gotta take care of some lava monster off the Hawaiian Islands, wanna come? Asked Tatsumaki. If we can take a short break there, I'd love to. Tatsumaki turned to him and smiled. Deal, now get me to the ceiling quickly. Quicker we leave, longer the stay we have. The jet pilot never even saw someone enter his jet, he just knew it when his target had poked her head into the cockpit. Get going, idiot. I wanna relax there after this. Why yes ma'am, said the pilot with a salute before tilting the jet's engine back down, lifting it up into the air. Once it had reached optimal height, the engines faced their usual way before sending out a powerful burst, shooting the small plane off at speeds many didn't think possible for a private jet. 1 hour later, Saitama groaned loudly, looking at the destroyed beach where Tatsumaki had tossed the large lava creature. She had apologized more than enough times afterwards and now she was sulking. Her pilot had left by accident and the only way back was a long flight home. That's when she felt someone poke her head, specifically her boyfriend. Fought, drawled out the Esper. Time to go, I'll just let you stay over and we can watch King beat more people online. You like to talk trash while he does anyway, said Saitama. It'd take me a bit to get there. Can you slow someone's fall? Tatsumaki turned to him with an odd look. Of course, why? Before she knew it, she was thrown over his shoulder and he crouched down. Then slow mine down when we get near my house, was all the warning she got before he shot off into the air at speeds Tatsumaki never could hope to reach. As they flew away from the island, she noticed the giant crater now where he stood and the massive cracks that nearly split the island apart. What more is there to him? Thought the Esper. Slow us down, said Saitama as they neared a street crossing. He noticed the familiar green glow around them as they descended at a much calmer speed until his feet touched the ground. Once he felt he was firmly in place, the bald hero turned and walked down the street with Tatsumaki still on his shoulder. My house is just down the street, so what sounds good for dinner? Not udon noodles, said Tatsumaki. Whyyyyyy. Whined Saitama. Because that's all you eat, make some chicken. Fine. Chicken ramen sound good. The Esper sighed, he'd never give up noodles, whatever. Woo. Noodles. Chapter 5. Saitama sighed, he was doing his normal rounds around his neighborhood and it was once again boring. It wasn't often anything happened, but with Tatsumaki, King and Geno's out on business, he was left with little to do. Well, if by little he meant the constant bothering of Fubuki, then there wasn't anything happening. Just tell me how you got her to act like this. Please, said Fubuki, trailing beside him as he walked the streets. I didn't do anything, she just started to change, said Saitama, starting to get more and more bothered by her presence. I know something must have made her change her attitude. Tell me or I'll force you as the strongest B rank, said Fubuki before Saitama stopped dead in his tracks. Fubuki was many things, someone who talked her mouth off was one of them. When the man she knew could beat her sister without breaking a sweat ceased movement after her threat, she began to consider running. Don't talk about Tatsumaki, as her changing can be focused to one single being or reason. She is her own person with her own thoughts just as you are. Now, stop bothering me already, shouted Saitama, gaining the attention of a few passerbys. It was then Fubuki decided it best to not question him so heavily, he was strong-willed. She needed to bid her time, wait till it slipped. She knew either he was the cause of it or he knew what changed her sister so much. Okay, fine. I'll drop it, said the younger Esper. Baldy, what's my sister doing all the way over here? Asked Tatsumaki, floating down in front of Saitama. All she does is question me constantly, not much else. Oh, she must be desperate for friends, said Tatsumaki with a small laugh. I am not. Seems like it since you bother sensei so much, said Genos, appearing behind Saitama. I second that, said King, getting out of a cab on the street near them. I'd think the same with all that I heard, said Bang, passing by with his brother as they looked for Garo. Is every S-rank friends with you? Asked Fubuki. Saitama shrugged. Dunno, I don't keep track. Genos follows me like a puppy, Tatsumaki likes my company, King's the same way and Bang is pretty old so he gets to do what he wants anyway. Now, I'm trying to find someone to help. As if his words alone brought damnation, a giant beast landed in front of him. Who calls for the screams of innocence? I have come, the evil disaster-level dragon, winged aardvark. Now standing nearly 4 stories tall was a massive aardvark with odd silk wings that belonged on a totally different animal, like the rest of his rippling muscles. The large animal looked down and nearly felt all his will to live leave him in an instant. There were 4 S-class heroes, a legendary B rank and some A rank he heard about through odd happenings around the city. The hulking beast stepped back, but as he took his first few steps someone new spoke. Did someone say evil? Evil, evil, shouted an oddly round old man, shaking his cane at the demon, or more specifically where he thought it was. Just as the beast's foot neared the elder, Bang appeared, stopping the foot with just his hand. Respect your elders, whispered Bang before Tatsumaki sent the beast sailing across the city and far into the ocean. He won't come back if he was that scared, said King, watching Genos talk to Fubuki sternly about bothering Saitama. Thank you, young man, said the elder. Bang bowed. It was my pleasure. Now I just need to find my sidekick. He wandered off somewhere a while ago. We can help since nothing else is happening, said Saitama with Tatsumaki sitting on his shoulder. You youngsters are too nice, but I'll take it anyway. He's got a big nose, wears some ridiculous blue tights and a red shirt. I think we'll work with that, said Saitama, lifting the elderly man on his other shoulder as they started to scour the city. All while this happened, Fubuki frowned and trailed behind, knowing the end game for this adventure. 4 hours later, everyone's done a few laps around the city and asked around. No one saw him today at all, said Genos, returning with King as Fubuki returned with Bang. There is one place, trailed off Tatsumaki, but she already doubted he'd be there. The graveyard. He liked to go there a lot and visit his family. The elder suddenly shouted, surprising the others. The graveyard is just down the road actually. We were heading there next since it was the last place we thought he'd be, said Genos. Saitama didn't need any more convincing and started the short walk to the land of the dead. It's pretty big for a graveyard, said King, wondering how nearly 10 acres of land was somehow plotted off like this. Saitama set the old man down. I'll follow him around and the rest of you spread out. No one wasted time and scoured the region. They didn't really find anything living in the area, let alone someone matching the elder's friend. As everyone besides Saitama and the elderly man grouped up and moved to find Saitama, they ran into a familiar face in the Hero Association. Now what's all these S-class heroes doing wandering together like this instead of helping people? Said handsomely Mask Sweet Mask. We like to mourn as well, said Bang with a quick response. Of course, we all do. But does that need all these high-rank heroes? I think you'd be better off taking turns and helping others while mourning those you lost to tragedy. Better keep it shut, A-class, threatened Tatsumaki. His ordering of others like he was had become a big agitation for her, seeing as he liked to bother Genos and to an extent, Saitama. As they talked, the group was making their way through the cemetery and never noticed anyone else around. That's enough out of you, shouted Tatsumaki, tired of hearing him constantly try to belittle them all in some way. Hey, spoke someone nearby, causing the group to find where the sound came from. We're having a conversation here, said Sweet Mask, only to feel a sudden rush of dread run through the area, putting everyone on high alert. The blue-haired hero shook off the dread and smirked. Why don't you mind your business? You're probably just a low C-class. Slowly, Saitama turned his head and everyone could see the absolute fury on his face as he looked at Sweet Mask, who took an instinctive step back. Shut up, said Saitama, ending any words that the taller man was going to say. A sudden gust of wind blew his cloak away to show the elder on a small gravestone that read Barnacle Boy. Everyone present could tell he wasn't breathing, but a smile was plastered on his face with a few dried tear marks seen. I thought as much. I wasn't sure at first, but seeing him like that with this gravestone tells me I was right, said Fubuki, walking forward. That's Aquaman, a former top A-class hero, along with his sidekick Barnacle Boy. The two never separated until one day Aquaman disappeared and a few months later Barnacle Boy passed away in his sleep. He was buried last year and they never found Aquaman until now. I remember that a little bit. I went to the funeral service with Bang then, said King. He wanted to be buried with Aquaman when they found him, said Bang. Tatsumaki frowned, then suddenly the ground where the grave was ripped up and set aside. Aquaman's body was lifted in the air and the coffin door opened before he was placed next to his sidekick and the door shut. Once it was shut, the dirt was lifted and placed back in its spot. He'll be happier there, said Tatsumaki, letting her powers die down as she rested back on Saitama's shoulder. Fubuki knelt down and pulled her knife out before carving in the tablet. Once she stopped, she pocketed the knife and stepped back to let the others see. The stone now read, "In loving memory of Barnacle Boy." Plus Aquaman best friends forever and ever and ever. You even put their saying down, said King, somewhat surprised the woman even knew it. Believe it or not, I thought highly of them when I was young and watched the Hero Association. I looked for this old coot for a few months before giving up. Now, I'm just happy they're back together again. Let's leave them be. I'm hungry, said Saitama, turning on his heel and walking out of the cemetery. You okay, Baldy? Asked Tatsumaki. He seemed a little out of it. Yeah, but I need to have a word with Sweet Mask one day, said Saitama, in a rare moment that he actually seemed threateningly serious.